How was that?
Great.
I had a nice moment with Luke. He said, Mr. Davis, I'd like you to come hear my presentation. I really enjoyed your book, and he wanted me to come hear his presentation for his products. And I said, well, that sounds great. So me and my wife went over to visit with Heidi and Mike, our dear friends, and their son Luke, and I listened to his sales presentation. And then at the end of it, I said, are you asking me to buy products, or are you just asking me to give you feedback on your presentation? And he said, well, are they mutually exclusive? That's good selling there. That's good selling there. Welcome. I'm so thrilled to be here today with all of you. Thank you for coming, and I think we put together a great program for you on how to beat the price objection. And what we're going to walk you through is a process through 4 courses, a series of 4 lectures on this program to enable you to understand what you can do to build your mindset, what you can do to set better goals, what you can do to run the sales process a little bit better, and ultimately what you can do at the heat of battle of negotiation. We've got some great thoughts for you on that. I want to start out by talking about the most important concept I think we can start with, which is the mindset and preparing yourself to walk away. I have a couple of confessions to make. One of them is I didn't start out as such a very good salesman. When I got into sales 30 years ago, I was kind of a scared guy. I went to work for a company that had a product defect, a manufacturing fault. I don't know how many of you know what a seal failure is. The company I went to work for had 100% seal failure. Every window was defective. So I had a $2.5 million territory that I took over, and I lost a $750,000 account my first week on the job in Columbus, Ohio, while the company was giving me a $4.2 million goal for the coming year. I didn't know how to do it. Is anybody here relatively new to sales? Anybody relatively new? How long have you been selling?
A couple months.
A couple of months. Did they give you the training?
A little bit, yeah.
Go get them. Remember that? That's the training we got way back in the day. That was the training I got. So they said, go out there and get them, man. So I tried to get them, and I didn't know what I was doing. And you know, when you have 100% product defect, you might not believe this, but people are pretty angry. Yeah, Jack Holloway, my client in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, he was so mad at me and the company that my first month on the job, he didn't like the answers he was getting from the company, nor me. I didn't know what to do about it. So what did he do? He gave every homeowner my home phone number to call me in Cincinnati, Ohio. This was before we had caller ID. It was before we had second lines in our homes, anything like that. I mean, I just became scared to pick up the phone. I cried a lot. Yeah, I once got lost with my boss in my territory for a couple of hours, and I've shared this story so many times in my career, and I want to tell you something. He's here. It was Bob. It's true. I got lost with my boss for 2 hours in my territory. I once left an entire elevation of windows off of Blueprint Takeoff and got the job, being 25% lower than everybody else. That helped. This is your speaker this morning. Have I inspired confidence for you? Now, the reason I bring that up is one, to let you know I'm not the most perfect guy in the room, and I do what you do for a living, I sell. The other reason I bring it up is because since that time I think I have had a little bit of success. I have been able to achieve some success at different levels. My last real job, I was the national sales manager for a commercial division for a company. I've acted as director of sales for a couple of clients on a consultative basis and helped them in transitions. So I have had some success. And I bring both of those stories up because you know what changed in my career? Not me, well me, but I'm the same person. I'm the same performer. But you know what changed? The performance. The performance is different. And that's what we want to talk about, the performance. And the first thing that has to happen, you have to believe whether or not you can walk away from a bad negotiation. I started to tell you, I'm not really a very good negotiator. I've concluded that. But you know what I am good at? Prospecting. I'm good at finding a lot of opportunities. And when you find enough opportunities, you load your pipeline, your arsenal with so much good chances for success that you have the power to walk away from a bad negotiation. Because if you can't walk away from a negotiation, you can't win. See, I feel like the price objection is like dirty water at the mouth of the river, okay? And success is a mindset. you know? And the price objection is really not the disease. It's a symptom of a bigger disease. It's the dirty water at the mouth of the river. And you can try all you want to clean up the mouth of the river and get rid of the problems that you've got in that whole body of water at the very end of the stream, but it's too late. If you're going to do it, you've got to do it upstream where the factory's dumping pollutants into the water. You've got to do it where the boats are leaking oil and throwing, garbage over, where the people are littering off the side of the highway. If you want to clean up the river, you've got to do it upstream. And I feel the same way about the price objection. If you want to fix that, you've got to do that upstream. So what this program is, it's a program of beliefs and perceptions. And I want to open by talking about how our mindset, how our belief system dramatically impacts the way we perform. You become what you think of and believe most. What you expect is what you get. I call this behaviors and beliefs, or behaviors and perception. They are the exact same thing. As our that famous philosopher Forrest Gump said, I'm going to paraphrase it. He said, "Smart is as smart does." What's that mean? Actions speak louder than words. As Ben Franklin said, "Well done is better than well said." On and on and on. There's a phrase from many, many great philosophers that say, it's not what you say, it's what you actually do. And what you actually do is what's going to produce your results. But they're so impacted by the way you think that I want to illustrate how that really happens to all of us. Okay? The first thing that we believe price is king. What does that mean? It means our behavior becomes bid and pray. Some people say it, I think Bill calls it quote and hope. I've heard show up and throw up. I've heard all sorts of ways that people say, yeah, you go out there and you give out some information and you hope people will suddenly interrupt you and buy from you. But we throw out a lot of information, we bid and pray, and we hope people will buy from us. And you know what? It's because we perceive something, the price is king. Do you notice I put the behavior first? Because you all would agree with this. We bid and we pray. We go to contractors and say, hey, you got something coming up I could bid on? And we hope that they give us a set of blueprints and we want to throw them a price. We say, no, I'm a closer. I'm a great salesman. Well, that's where, not stupid is, but what you do is what is. Okay? And what ends up happening? You end up with combative negotiations. And we need to do something about that. We need to create some new behaviors. What we need to figure out is how we can create profits. That's the job of a great sales leader. See, we get mixed up. We think that great sales volume makes you a good salesperson. It's great sales profits that makes you a great salesperson. I want to share something with you that I think some of you have heard. If you ever took an economics class in college, you've heard this. That supply and demand determine price. If you've never heard this, welcome to Economics 101, Macroeconomics 101. What you see is this graph that shows a price axis and a quantity axis. And what the traditional theory is on pricing is that the more the price goes up, the more somebody is willing to supply. Hey, if you're going to pay more, I'm going to make a lot more of that. Hey, the more demand there is for that product, the more I'm just going to keep making more of that. We'll keep raising the price on that thing. And the demand curve is just the opposite. The higher the price, the less people are willing to buy. And here's the problem. The determination is that somewhere in the middle, that's what they call price equilibrium. Now, when I took economics, and I was an economics major in college, and when I took economics, the chair of the University of Michigan department was a man named Daniel Fustel. And Professor Fustel was a grumpy, crotchety kind of a guy who just kind of said what came to his mind. Now, he didn't say this in a low-level class. In a high-level class, I'll never forget this. He said this in one of the high-level economics classes. I took 4 or 5 classes with this brilliant guy. And I remember him saying this, and I was too dumb to know really what it meant at the time. I just remember him saying it. I thought, well, that's not what they taught us before. He said, everybody knows supply and demand has nothing to do with price. Cost determines price. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm glad I remembered that. Because it's a big deal. Okay? Because see, here's the real facts. Now, I'm going to share this with you and let you know that I asked a lot of owners and managers that were sending people to these programs around the country if these were accurate numbers and if I should share these things, and they said, please tell this story. See, every time you buy a product, you pay some money for it. You buy a window for $240, you buy a stick of lumber for $2.99, whatever it might be. You buy a square of roofing for $68, whatever the cost is. You mark it up. You buy it for a price, and then you mark it up. And hopefully you're marking it up somewhere that's going to produce some profits for your company. This is what we call a 24% gross margin, because 24% of the total price is the margin that you get on your revenues. So what happens to the rest of that dollar is the question. I'm surprised how many salespeople don't realize what happens. What happens to that dollar is about 11 cents of that dollar goes to pay for the people that work in your organization. Another 5, 6, 7 cents of that dollar goes to buy for capital equipment. You got some miscellaneous costs in there, which include advertising, bad debt, people not giving you the money, and hopefully you can find somebody who can help you get the right money, get return on that. You can improve yourself in those areas. And by gosh, if you're running your business right, it absolutely does include some service expenditures. I mean sales training. Okay. I got to put the plug in. You got to do some sales training. And then what's left over at the end of the day? You spent 96 cents of that dollar. Do you know how much money you got left over? 4 cents on the dollar before tax. Am I close enough? Yes or no? Somebody help me.
Yes. Yeah.
These are the numbers. So when somebody says, hey, can you do a little bit better? Can you help me out? Can you give me a point on that thing? You say, let me see what I can do. We kick the can down the road. We say, let me go to the supplier. The supplier, the supplier goes to their supplier. We keep asking for that point. And guess what happens? We give them the point, and then here's what I always ask salespeople. What happens when you give them a point? What happens? Here's what I hear. The first thing I hear is that people say, well, you just set a precedent. Now people are always going to expect you to negotiate. They're always going to expect that we're going to give them a little bit of money. And that wasn't really the price in the first place. That was just kind of what I was hoping to get. And then what's the next thing that we say? We say we feel kind of badly because we didn't really get the price we were hoping for. But we got the sale, I guess. Although most people don't even say that. You know what they also say? They say that the customer wonders, well, if you gave me a point, why didn't you give me 2? What were you doing to me in the first place? You know what else I always say? I ask this question. Did we make the customer feel like they got the right deal? I say no. Isn't it possible that when we tell a customer, I can give you a point, we give them the point, they get the deal, and they leave themselves wondering, should I have asked for 2 or 3? Did I get the best possible deal? You've got to look somebody in the eye at some point in your career, and I know salespeople that are 25 and 30 years into their career, and they haven't had this very important moment in time when they look that contractor dead in the eye and they say, no sir, you've got my best price. Now you say it like that, even though inside you're going like this. And that great moment happens and they say, well, that's what I wanted to hear. And they shake your hand and they thank you for the deal. I say, how many of you get my tips of the day these days? Let me get my tips of the day. One of my favorite tips to send out. I've sent it out, I think, twice now. And somebody said you can send this out every month, just as a reminder. You will never know the power of holding your price and winning until you've held your price and lost. You absolutely must hold your price and lose a sale in order to hold your price and win. Because if you never hold your price, you never know you'll never find out what's going to happen. Okay? I share this because this is the framework from which we want to offer a program to you. It's about generating profits. It's about protecting the jobs of the people that work in your organization, because you should know this. The easiest thing for a company to change on this chart is what? People. I can't cut out a computer system overnight. I can't get rid of a truck instantly. I can't change the overhead costs instantly. I can't change the price of fuel. So when things go really sour in my company, you know what I have to do? I have to get rid of some people. That's our job, is to protect jobs, protect profits for the company. Okay? So the next thing I want to share is this. Here's another powerful perception, a belief that the product we sell is just a commodity. Well, I don't think it's just a commodity because I think there's more to it. Why do I know that people think it's a commodity? Because we bid and pray. We ask people if we can give them a quote, we give them a price, and then you know what ends up happening? We start talking in the same way we always do, and we end up with some combative negotiations because we haven't done enough to differentiate our offer. You know what I think we really need to do? We need to help our customers manage costs. That's an alternate behavior. You need to go into a negotiation. You need to go into the sales process, not just with the idea of I'm going to deliver a price, because it's not about price, it's about cost. Bill and I are both going to say this probably 2 or 3 times during this program. It's not price, it's the total cost of doing business. And if I can save you money on scheduling, labor cost, delivery, less callbacks, whatever it might be, then that's what I have to sell you on. And you have to be prepared with those ideas before you go into the negotiation. Another thing that I feel that we always assume, we assume that the competition we deal with is competent. You know, the competition is not as competent as you might believe they are. And what ends up happening when we think our competition is competent? We start talking in what I call, or what the people call, platitudes. You know what a platitude is? A platitude is a sentence or a phrase or it's a statement you make that is dull and boring, that you deliver as something highly original that will differentiate you from somebody else. We do this all the time. For example, some of you might have a mission statement in your company. You proudly tell your company, your customers, we are a company that's a family-owned business, a 4th-generation company with great people that work here, and we offer an environment for our employees of safety and opportunity while delivering value and service of great products at a fair price with liberty and justice for all. Does that sound like some of your mission statements right there? So, yawn, big deal. That doesn't do anything for me. That doesn't, as a customer, that does something that says what you are, but it doesn't differentiate you in any way. What I'm suggesting that you try to do, what we want to offer you today is ways to actually be different. Okay? I think another thing that happens to us in one of our belief systems is that we believe contractors build things. You got to get out of that mindset. Contractors don't build things for a living. Contractors do the exact same thing you do. Got a contractor in this room right here, Ivor Johnson. He sells windows for a living. He installs them for a living. He doesn't just sit around waiting for people to call up and take orders and wait to buy windows from somebody. We get in this mindset that builders are out there building things and contractors and remodelers are out there just redoing houses and they're just sitting there waiting for the orders to trickle in and it's just our job to go out and, push products on them. And what ends up happening? We end up getting involved in some combative negotiations all over again. I guess the next thing that we can do then, if we know they sell things for a living, is help them sell. I had the privilege just recently in Minnesota of doing a program for one of my clients. We invited a group of remodelers in because I speak for a living and I'm a small business owner and I had some ideas for small business owners on how they could be more successful. So we invited a group of remodelers in, and I'm pleased that the salespeople of my client, they got 30 remodelers in the room. We talked with them about how they can drive their search engine a little bit better, how they can get on the first page of Google search, and you might say, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, go to YouTube and say, how do you get on the first page of Google? We talked with them about some ideas on writing better copy. We talked with them about some ideas on sales. You're pretty good salespeople. You should offer them some sales ideas and how they can sell a little bit more effectively. We taught them how to be better at what they did. I'm so pleased to tell you that, or I'm not sure if I'm pleased about this. At the end of the seminar, Sunny, my client, she came to me and she said, I want to tell you something. I think you just closed a $1.2 million deal for us today, which I was very proud of, except then I started thinking, I'm probably not charging you enough money. I mean, really, right? Why? We had people eating it up. I traveled with one of their salespeople the rest of that day and then the next day during some coaching that I do with that company. And in the field, we met all these different contractors. The conversations were completely different than he had before. Eric is his name. Eric said, man, that was so great. He's doing great as a young man, just knocking them out of the park every day. Just got into this business about 8 months ago and he's just killing it. He said, boy, what a differentiator that is. He goes, it's changing my dialogue with everybody. You should change your dialogue with everybody. Stop talking about the products that you have to bring to the table, and stop talking about features and benefits, and talking about your mission statement and the things that you're trying to do at your company. Stop talking about the weather and the news, and start talking about how you can help your customer make more money and sell something. Okay? Another one that I like to talk about. This one hit me, woke me up in the middle of the night. I didn't share this recently at one of the programs when I delivered this presentation. We had this implicit idea, this tacit idea that somehow we can control timing. And this is a big, big mistake. We think we control timing, and the result is we bid, and we beg, and we whine, and we wish we could get it, and we try to get it. And we have false expectations. This is really why I wrote my second book, The Sales Secret. Because I felt that the mistake that managers make, I want you managers to hear this. Managers make the mistake of managing results after the fact. You say, why didn't you get that deal? What's wrong with you? What happened? What went wrong? Why didn't you get it? What did you say? What did you do? How come you didn't get that one? What's it going to take to get that one? Get back out there and get that one. And then when they finally get that one, then we yell at them for not getting the right margins. It's not fair. You can't. Managers are managing the wrong thing. We're managing the results. And salespeople are the same. We show up and we say, oh my gosh, I just got a new prospect. I want to get your business. What's it going to take to get you happily involved tonight? You know, we sound like a used car salesman. I wouldn't do this for everybody, but if I could, you know, would you? And that's just not how we're going to sell in this business. What ends up happening? We've got no sale and no future. Because you're bidding and praying, and you end up just fueling the same animal that we all are frustrated with and we want to resist. That is this price bidding war. I say fall in love first. This is one of my tips recently. I love this idea that your customer should be excited and wanting your proposal and wanting your price before you even give it to them. What your mission should be in sales is that before your customers even received a quote, a bid, a proposal, whatever you want to call it, even before they've received that from you, you know what you want them saying? I hope this price comes in because this is who I want to do business with. You got to learn to slow down the process in order to make that happen. I think the biggest problem we have right now is this idea that there's scarcity in the market today, that there's no opportunities, that there's not a lot of places to get business. I really believe this is the case. I think that we think opportunity is scarce. I think that we end up selling in fear, and you know what ends up happening? We bid and pray, and we end up in these combative negotiations. It's the same cycle over and over again. We're coming off a tough time, I get it. For some of you that are relatively, did anybody get in this business in 2006 or 2008? Anybody in this room? I'm sorry. That was a mistake. You got in at the wrong time. The good news is you'll never have to go through this again. It's never going to be this bad again. But it's such a big surprise to us that all this happened, that we had this market fluctuation, and by gosh, it was awful. I want you to hear how awful it was. We were doing $350 billion worth of business back in 2005. A couple of million housing starts a year, according to the Harvard Business School Joint Center for Housing Studies, run by Kermit Baker. We were a $350 billion industry. It was great, man. It was easy. If you sell lumber in this room, you remember those days. You didn't have to be very good at what you did, no offense. I remember OSB pricing went to like $24, $25 a sheet almost overnight. It went from like $6 or $7 to $24. Do you remember when that happened? Remember what the contractor said to us? You son of a gun, you ought to be ashamed of you. That's highway robbery. That's obscene. How the heck can you, when can I get them? You didn't have to be good. We just had to get stuff out there as fast as we could. Then everything changed. We had what we might call a market correction. Some people would call it a depression. Over the years, we call it a fluctuation. The market fluctuates. It has for centuries and will continue to do so. It flux down and it flux up. That's it. Louis Rukeyser said it. He was the former Wizard of Wall Street. He had a show on public television. I figure if he can say it, I can say it. The market fluctuates, and it's going to fluck down, it's going to fluck up, and it's going to continue to do that for a long time. What do we need to do? We need to prepare ourselves. And my concern for all of you in this room is that the market is about to fluck up. And guess what? That's going to be bad news for some of you in this room, because it's going to make life easy again. And you're going to think, okay, I'm great at what I do again. And you're going to ride the crest of the wave back up to the top. See, great sales leadership is not sinking and rising with the tide. Great sales leadership is outperforming it. And that's what we want to try to help you do. Outperform the tide. That's what the goal is. And so the idea here is to beat the market fluctuations. And the idea here is to create in your mind a perception of abundance, because it's out there. You know, I think about that today, the market is about a $200 billion industry, maybe a $210 billion industry, and it's going to keep going up and down, and it's going to be a $250 billion industry, and it's going to go down again, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. And here's what I know. Today, the number one company, according to the Pro Sales 100 list, the number one company has a whopping market share of 2.5%. Think about that. I could go to any one of your markets, and I know something I could almost bet on, that if you're doing really well in your market, you might be getting 15%, maybe 20%. Some of you are just kicking it and getting 30%. Maybe you're getting 40. What does that mean? It means you're not getting 60 or 70 or 85% of the market. And I believe every one of us should pursue our God-given right to 100% market share. You should go out there, you should sell it, you should find the customers, you should grow with the customers that you can grow with. Opportunity is out there. And the problem is we get so caught up in worrying about what's going on out there and fearing what's out there that we don't create enough abundance in our minds, between our own two ears. That's what has to shift here. You've got to believe in abundance. You've got to believe that there's opportunity out there. You've got to create the idea that you can produce abundance in your mind. Okay? So what I want to talk about now is how we shift our behaviors. That's the challenge. What can you do differently today? Some of you have seen me talk about this before. I'm very excited about this because this is a concept that I delivered, and I decided for this program to expand. So I guarantee if you've seen me before, you've never seen what we're going to share today. What I'm going to offer you today is an in-depth visual perspective of what goes on in your marketplace and how you behave today. This is your territory. Now, I can take a look at any one of your customer lists. I can take a look at who you're doing business with, and I can make a guarantee about every one of you in this room. Your best customers are your A customers. They're giving you the majority of your business. Some people call it the 80-20 rule. Sometimes 30% of your customers give you 50% of your business, whatever it is, but you're all top-loaded. The top customers are your A customers, and they're the ones at the top of your list giving you $300,000 or $500,000 or a couple hundred, whatever it is. It's all relative. And then you've got your B accounts. Your B accounts, those are the cats that are giving you a middle amount, but you love them. Why? Because they're loyal and they pay on time, and they've got the characteristics you're seeking in a good customer. I love the B accounts. I'm a big fan of hunting rabbit and deer rather than elephants. Elephants are hard work. You got to carve them up. You got to refrigerate it. You got to store. You got a lot of things you got to do. They're high maintenance. Rabbit and deer. Hey, you miss one, you get the next one. They're abundant. I'd so much rather, and I think you agree with this, I'd so much rather have 20 $100,000 accounts than 2 $1 million accounts. I can afford to lose a $100,000 account. I can't afford to lose one account that represents 50% of my business. And then, of course, you've got your C accounts. What are your C accounts? I can look at every one of your list of customers, and you know what I know? Your C accounts gave you $50,000, one of them gave you $48,000, $36,000, $32,000, $20,000, 10, 15, 5, 3,000, 2,000, 1,250, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Does that sound about right to y'all? Is that right, yes or no? If it is, say yes.
Yes.
Here's what I know. I'm going to pay for the price of the seminar for you right now. Go back to your office, take those 0 accounts. If you don't have the time, give them to somebody who does, because I guarantee you, if you pick up the phone and call every one of those 0 accounts, you're going to find out something really interesting. One of them's going to say, Man, I haven't heard from you guys in a while. Ever since Charlie left, ever since Joey left, ever since Sally left, we haven't heard from anybody over there. We'd be pleased to talk with you about doing some business. Call those accounts. I'm going to come back to that thought momentarily. What I want to illustrate is what I think the typical day looks like for a normal salesperson in our industry today. What's the first thing they do? Well, they get a phone call the day before to the office, and the inside salesperson feels it and hands it to the outside salesperson. The outside salesperson takes a call and says, hey, how can I help you? He says, well, we've got a project coming up and we're looking for some numbers and wondering if you can throw us a bid. And the guy says, can I bid? Are you kidding? I can do that. I'd like to get those set of blueprints. I could be there tomorrow morning if you'd like me to. The guy says, I can't be here tomorrow morning, but I'll tell you what, I'll leave the set of blueprints. You want some numbers, then we'll talk. The guy says, you got aye, Captain? He goes, I'll leave them with my receptionist. What's that guy do? He hightails it right down there to that prospect. Notice there's no box around that. It's an X. Why do I give that an X? Because he doesn't even know what type of customer he's dealing with, what type of prospect. We're willing to give them a price without knowing who they currently do business with, or we might know that through rumor, why they called us that day, what the type of work is they do, what the loyalty is we can expect from them, what type of volume, what type of repetitive purchases we might expect from them. We don't even know what margins we should bid them at, and we're ready to give them a price. If you agree that this happens, please say yes. Yes. Too much. And then we hightail it to the next call, and the next call, and the next call. And you know what? That ain't such a bad day. If I had a salesperson doing that, I might be all right. But it doesn't tell the whole story. See, here's the rest of the story. Anybody here know anything about diamonds? I know you know something about diamonds. You know what you know about diamonds? You know the 4 C's of diamonds, don't you? What are the 4 C's of diamonds? Pretty fast on that. Women know. And what do you men know? What's the 5th C? Yeah. Do you know that 100 years ago, the diamond was not even considered the standard of expression of love? It's not. That's how we tell a woman we love her. I want to love you for the rest of my life. I'm giving you a diamond. You know, that's what we do. That didn't happen 100 years ago. That was something the De Beers family instituted. It's brilliant marketing. It's expected now. It's institutionalized, really. Right? So what's the De Beers family? They sell guilt and pressure. They do. They used to have some music that it was franchised all over the country with their big diamond retailers. It was a violin solo going dun 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 dun. Does anybody remember this? Mm-hmm. High pressure. More, build the pressure. One of my favorite ads that they use is their Sweet Estates, a syndicated ad that they used for a couple of years about Sweet Estate, where they're selling the I Love You diamond pendant, and they symbolize your love growing. It's a small diamond and a bigger diamond and an even bigger one. To symbolize your love of the past, your current love, and the love of the future. This constant growing love. And then they have a commercial where the young man in the restaurant hands the girl the 3-heart diamond pendant, and she accepts it. She goes, oh. That's my best girl accepting diamond face I got. So that I got nothing else. But what I love about that commercial is, meanwhile, what's going on in that commercial is somewhere on the other side, at the other side of the room, they show this elderly couple at their table, and a woman's watching this expression of love, and she goes like this. And she turns to her husband. Then the camera pans down, and forgive me, notwithstanding the viral video of Adam Sandberg and Justin Timberlake, he's got a box in his lap under the table. Thank you for getting that one. And not moving. And moral of the story, you better have some diamonds or you're not really ready to express your love. That's how they sell diamonds to us. You know how they sell diamonds to the wholesaler? They say, we'll let you buy some diamonds, but you got to send us a money transfer to our Swiss bank account for $10 million or $5 million or $8 million, whatever it is you're going to buy that day. That's what they do. What a beautiful game plan to have negative receivables on your product of 10 days and not even allow people to negotiate or choose the type of product or quality they're going to get. You know what they ship them for their $10 million? A box of rocks. if you just got a box of rocks for $10 million and you knew the success of your entire business model was contingent upon your ability to take those diamonds, carefully examine every gem in that box of rocks, sort them, and resell them on the open market to get your money back, how carefully would you examine every gem in that box of rocks? Pretty doggone carefully, right? Here's what I think. I think when you run your territory, we get so caught up in our little world of these are my customers, I'm servicing my customers, I'm going to take care of my existing base of customers, that we forget that there's a world of opportunity out there. I got a salesman who goes from customer A to X, and somewhere in the middle, he never stops and visits that B customer. Why does he stop and visit that B customer? A prospect, I should say. But it's because the B prospect used to work for an A prospect, this guy right here. This guy used to work for this guy. And he never goes and visits with him because he doesn't even know him. Because this guy, we used to work for this guy, and you know, he got sick and tired of working for the man. And what happens in our industry? Somebody gets sick and tired of working for the man, what do? They decide to become the man. How many of you work with somebody like that, a roofing contractor, siding contractor, window, right? They decide, I can do this. They get a call one day from some family member, they get a call from a friend, they say, hey, could you do a job for us? And they say, why am I doing this for this guy? I can do this myself, right? No business savvy, no one. They just know they want to do it. So what do? The first thing they do is they look for a supplier. So some guy walks onto the job site, the person they know is the salesman for that customer, calling on that A account, right, your competitor's account, and they see the salesman walk up one day and they go, "Did you got a business card?" And the guy says, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. And he pulls out a business card and hands it to him, and he says, you got a number I can call you if I can help you out with something? He's smart. He doesn't wait for the call. He finds out what the guy's number is because he knows exactly why he's asking for the card. Why is he asking for the card? Because he wants to learn how to set up an account. He wants to learn how he can buy materials. He wants to learn how he can go into business for himself. But here's the thing. If you have been calling on this account, even if it wasn't your customer, you might have been that person on the job site. In fact, we need to recognize and know that who's ever selling this guy might not exactly want to open up his former employee, right? That might be a little bit of a conflict of interest. See, we got to get out of this notion that it's not what you know. People say it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. You've got to be known by people. You've got to have your cards on people's hands. They've got to be ready to do business with you. And this is a prime example of it. This guy's waiting to find somebody that he could know to become a customer. And you know, nobody ever visits this customer, you know why? All it would have taken is a little Google search. And I know some of you are doing this, but I'm astounded by how many salespeople I talk to. They don't spend time proactively either joining their local chapter of NARI, joining their local builders association, working to Google to meet somebody new all the time. So they're not proactively prospecting, they're reactively prospecting and not even doing it all too well. And here's the real punchline and moral of the story. There is an abundance of opportunity out there, an abundance. And my concern is that the salesperson who spends their time managing their territory with this implicit vision of managing their book of business and telling me they don't have time to prospect, there's no time to grow my business, I'm overwhelmed. This person is as naive as the jeweler that doesn't examine every gem in their box of rocks to find out where other opportunities are. It's the key to being able to holding your price, beating the price objection, is having alternatives in your pipeline. If you think you need to do some more prospecting after you leave here today, please say aye. Thank you. That's what it really takes. Let's talk a little bit more about this graphic and create some new ideas on this one, okay? Create abundance in your mind. Meet somebody new every day. Okay? I'm not trying to steal thunder from Bill. He's going to say it too. We both say it. We're going to say it over and over again. It's the number one thing I can tell you. You could ask Elise, who greeted you, who's been working with me now for 4 years. Ask her. Say, does Rick prospect? Really, does he? And she will tell you, it's funny because we'll be sitting around and all of a sudden I'll just pick up the phone and say, I got to call this guy. I'll click on my database and say, I got to call this person. I'll call him. I might get him, I might not. Then I'll drop him an email. I'll leave him, if I don't get a hold of him. In fact, if you read my tip yesterday, you know what I'll do. I'll call you up. I'll say, hey, Jim, I wanted to get in touch with you. I wanted to talk to you about the thing, and I probably did this with Jim Allen just recently. I said, I'd like to talk with you about the thing, that other thing, the thing we're going to do. And if you don't mind, I'd like to chat it up with you. But don't worry about writing down my phone number, because I'm going to drop it to you in an email so it's handy on your smartphone so you don't have to pick up a pen. Versus the other part of my tip where we had 8 messages yesterday on our phone, on our office line. Yeah, Rick, please give me, they all slowly, I want to talk with you. We love to chat and visit about things, so if you want, please give me a call back. The number here is 201-555-6311. Replay. Had to replay one of them twice, right? So let's be wise about how we're going to meet somebody new and make some new contacts, all right? Now, a better part of the story is that I really like this one. This was an article I wrote last year in Pro Sales Magazine. It's one of my favorite articles I've written in the last couple of years. Does anybody know what alchemy is? Alchemy was this false belief in the Middle Ages that scientists thought, wizards believed, that they could take base metals of iron and whatever, copper, and they could turn them into valuable metals of gold and silver through some sort of magical, mystical process. And of course they never figured out how to do that ever. That's alchemy. That you can take bad products, bad metals or lower base metals and turn them into highly precious metals. Doesn't happen. I feel the same thing is true of sales accounts. I think we take accounts and we think that somehow we're magically going to take a customer that is a slow pay, lousy, high nuisance, all these bad things that we don't want, bad credit, all these things, and we're going to turn them into a great account. We don't stop and think that one of the best ways to grow our business and beat the price objection is to actually proactively look for the right accounts. Do you understand the term prospecting? Prospecting isn't periodically just talking with somebody. Prospecting isn't waiting for the phone ring. Prospecting is the proactive search of sifting through rocks that come down the river. Looking, no good, and there it is. You're going through a bunch of garbage to find that nugget of gold. That's prospecting. That's what we're trying to do. Okay? So the visual I'd like to share with you is this. Let's take away everything. Let's take away the territory. Let's take away our boundaries. Let's take away everything else. And let's just think for a minute and say, okay, what I'd like to do is I want to examine one gem at a time. And I take a look at this gem, and you know what I see? I see a combative, high maintenance, high nuisance, not loyal, difficult, problematic customer, doesn't have a good marketing plan, doesn't have a vision for the future. It ain't the person who's going to make me a lot of money. Okay? I'll sell them, but I'm going to sell them with the right amount of time. I always call that the low nuisance factor. There is a sales cost to every account that you have. And what we need to do is get our sales costs in line. But these sometimes become the accounts that take up a lot of our time. They're the squeaky wheel. They're the ones that complain enough, and we give them, a deal. We help them out. We do something we can, right? What about this other account? We haven't even talked to this guy. This B account, you know what? When we talk to that guy, you know what we find out? We've got somebody who's cooperative. They're fair. They're loyal. They provide fair margins. They've got a marketing plan. They're willing to work with us. They present a long-term potential. I have salespeople do this all the time. What would you rather have? Would you rather have a $100,000 sale today on a commercial project that may never come again? Or would you rather open up a new account that gives you $50,000 a year for 10 years? Dumb question. I'd so much rather have the $50,000 account that I can open up over the next 10 years. So we need to examine these gems in our box of rocks to determine which ones will give us the most potential. And I don't think we do enough of that in our career. So we got to find gems. That's the idea. Find the right gems. What does that mean? It means stop trying to fix broken businesses. You can't do it. You've got to know what types of customers are in your wheelhouse, who your ideal target is. It's funny, Bill and I were talking last night at dinner, we're talking about, he was giving me some counseling because he's a veteran and he's a mentor of mine, and I'm very lucky to have that. And he was talking, Rick, you got to decide, are you going to stay in this business, you're going to branch out of this business? And I've never really tried to branch out of this business, and I don't know if I want to be honest with you. Why? It's easy. It's in my wheelhouse. People know me before I know them. I've got a clear vision of who I'm trying to sell to. Do you? I sell to a remodeler one day and a volume builder the next and a custom home builder the next. I find that the most successful salespeople are the ones that are niched. They're selling to the remodeler pretty consistently. They're selling to the custom home builder pretty consistently. They learn the language of that trade. They learn the processes of that trade. The custom home builder sales guy, he knows that he's going to be working with the architect and the designer. He knows he's going to become directly involved with the homeowner. He knows he's got a better opportunity to sell the whole package. The guy selling to the high volume customer knows it's going to be a different sort of a game. He's going to periodically deal with a big time decision maker at the top of the food chain and spend a lot of time servicing and driving an account, generally 1 or 2 products at a time and not getting a lot of depth of product, sales. You try to and you keep working it, but it's a different sales process. And then you got the remodeler guy. I'm working with a customer right now that we're just picking them off, and my client said, same one, she goes, I don't know if we want to do this remodeler business. I said, well, you should, because your competition stinks at it. And instead of us trying to figure out how we're going to beat the competition at their target audience, you know what we're doing? I think I finally convinced her. I said, no, this is where it's at for us. All the people in this market say, the big boys, they're not good with remodelers. They don't like, you know why they're not good with remodelers? Because they're trying to sell remodelers at the same price they're selling their big time clients. And who would want to service a remodeler that requires higher maintenance, more takeoffs, more special orders, when I can sell those commodity products to a builder where it comes easy? You have to get a better margin with remodeler. So you've got to know what your target niche is, and this is very, very important for all of you. Okay. So the next thing I want to say is look in your backyard. This is a powerful concept. See, when you look at this, you know what you see? Blurry. Can't figure it out. You know why this guy up here is a C? This person is a C because we look at them on a spreadsheet and we see they did $1,500 last year, or $4,000 last year, or $6,000 last year. But we haven't put them under the microscope. Because if we went back and called on them in a different way, with the idea that we can learn more about their business, with the idea that we can improve the quality of our dialogue, then the whole discussion would change. And what we would realize is, oh, just because that looks like a C in terms of volume on my spreadsheet of customers, that doesn't mean it's actually a C potential. It can be a C customer, but a B prospect. Does that make sense? And what you need to do is you need to start examining this one and say, oops, you see this, you see, they're loyal to my competitor. I want them to be loyal to my competitor. If I've got somebody who's been doing business with a competitor of mine for about 3 or 4 years, I'm okay with that. Because it means that when I do finally earn their business, they'll be loyal to me. That's why timing is so important. Because if I try to change somebody who's got a good relationship with an existing competitor, I'm fooling myself into thinking that I'm going to change that overnight. Because they like their competitor, they like the service, they like the relationship, everything's going smoothly, and in the absence of anything to persuade them to switch to a new supplier, what's the one thing I've got in my arsenal? The wrong thing. That's why we talk ourselves. Mindset, beliefs, perceptions. Perception becomes reality. We talk ourselves into the wrong deal. Okay? I want them to be cooperative, but even if they are with my customer, all the same things that I'm looking for in a prospect, I'm looking for in somebody on my exact existing customer list. So find some gems in your backyard. This is a really important statement you're reading here. This is key. Think about this. You got all these customers on your list. You got 20 people on your list that are buying $3,000 or $4,000 or $8,000 or $10,000 a year of materials. Do you think a successful business, any person, even a small business, can succeed by only delivering and installing $8,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 worth of materials a year? No way. What's that mean? They're buying from somebody. You've got to find out who. You've got to go back and look at those B accounts and those C accounts, because especially the ones that are doing $3,000 and $4,000 a year, because you know what? They're buying from somebody. It just ain't you. Okay? Make sense? Next. Now, what's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin? If this is what Kevin's week looks like, are you in outside sales now, Kevin?
Yeah.
Congratulations. By the way, you're lucky. You already have more training in half an hour than most of us got in the entire first 5 years of our career. Maybe that's, you're lucky. Mostly, go get it. Here's the samples, you know. And then you find out you got a 100% product defect and you don't know what you're doing and they made too high a goal for it and you come back crying and then they give you the motivational program. Hang in there, you can do it. We want to do a little better than that for you. So if this is Kevin's day, I'm picking on Kevin because if this is Kevin's day in the field, I'm okay with it. Let me tell you what you're looking at, okay? You're looking at a calendar of a week. Okay? Let me say something to you. I want you to hear this next part. It's really, really vital. If somebody came to me, in fact, somebody did come to me about 4 years ago. I was doing a program just like this. And somebody said, Rick, if somebody asked you what the top keys are, what makes somebody a great salesperson, what would you say? And I want to frame this in a certain way now. I've been doing this for 15 years on my own. I've got 30 years in this business. I write articles for Pro Sales Magazine. Many of you read those articles and like them and think that I've got something to say. I send out a daily business tip that some of you read and think pretty okay. I've got a couple of books published. I'm not saying I'm the end all be all and I know. But I'm saying that somebody thinks I've got something to lend to the argument and the discussion. And if you ask me, I will defend this forever. The number one thing that makes somebody a better salesperson than another is calendar management. How you use your time. Okay? A gentleman in the room taught me that. It's everything. How you spending your time. How you maximizing your calendar. Vital in sales, because this is what you have to drive every day. You don't just show up at the office and have a bunch of things coming at you. Unless, are there any inside salespeople in this room? We've got some inside salespeople in this room. I hope you take some ideas from this. You've got to prioritize your time too. I'll give you one insight now before we move on because I feel like I don't want you to walk out and say, there's a lot for outside salespeople. Let me tell you something for the inside salespeople. I get your life. Your life is air traffic control. You show up at the office in the morning. You're about 10 minutes early. You have the decency to put a pot of coffee in it. You put the pot of coffee on, and as you walk into the desk, somebody walks in the door because you forgot to lock the door. You're like, oh man, you're coming in. And the phone rings up. I'll be right with you. And the phone rings, and you answer the phone, and it's a customer calling because they want to check on an order. While that happens, your cell phone, gives you a text message from the salesperson who needs you to call them right away because they're looking for an order out on the job site. While that happens, the truck driver walks up and stands on your shoulder because they need help with the manifest because they don't have the right paperwork for a couple of their orders that's going that day. The guy's standing at the counter waiting for you. You're on the phone, and all of a sudden you look down at your desk, and there's a stack of paperwork that the boss left you from the night before after you walked out of the office. You start dealing with all these things. You finally call the salesman back. You get the guy out of your desk. You start looking at the paperwork. You help the driver out. You answer the phone call. Somebody else walks in. They want you to help him and greet him with a smile, by God, and pretend like you're having fun, damn it. So finally, at like 10:15, you get to go get yourself that pot of coffee. You walk over to the coffee maker. What's left there? A little bunch of black tar at the bottom. Does that sound at all familiar? You've got to manage your calendar too. You've got to prioritize your time. You've got to get rid of that silly spiral notebook you've got sitting on your desk. That ongoing, lifelong to-do list. It's a bad to-do list. You got one of those? 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 Get rid of it. Start each day with a fresh to-do list. Put the date on the page. Start with a fresh to-do list. Know what your priorities are and stick to it. Learn how to say, not now. We can't say no to people. We can say not now. You need to learn how to, when people give you irrational demands, you need to be able to say to one of your salespeople calling you up and say, man, you got to get on this thing right now because we got a fire to put out or else. Okay, well, just so you know, I can put that fire out right now, but it's going to light 2 more. So here's the 3 things I got to do for you. You want me to put this fire out right now? I'm happy to do it, but it's going to create a fire for you. There's other 2 guys I'm working on. I think I should do these other 2 things first, but if you want me to drop that and tick them off, be ready for the phone call, you decide. Is that a fair conversation to have with an outside salesperson? Yes or no? Yes. Outside salespeople, you okay with that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Let's raise the dialogue. Let's manage our calendars more effectively. For you outside salespeople, this is what the typical day looks like of an outside salesperson, typical week. What are you looking at here? Those red lines on there, those are what I call cold calls. Now you might say, well, a cold call is the call you make to a prospect. I'm not talking about a cold call to a prospect. I'm talking about a cold call to anybody. Just an unannounced, pop-in, unexpected visit. A warm call is what I call a visit to an expected customer that knows you're going to drop off some screens, they know you're going to drop off some hardware, they know you're going to leave a sample with them. They know you're coming, but they don't have a lot of time to give you. They say, yeah, I'll be at the job site for a couple of hours. Can you get by there sometime? Then you say, yeah, how about 1:30? I got a couple hour window. Just get there. We don't need to schedule a time because I don't have a lot of time that day. Does that happen all the time in our business? Yes or no? I'm good with that. That's a productive meeting. And then, of course, an appointment is, see, Justin, I'll see you Tuesday. We'll sit down and we'll talk about that program, that new product that we're introducing to the marketplace. Can you give me about a half an hour? He says, you got it. That's an appointment. So here's the week of what I call an inexperienced salesperson or an inefficient one. I don't have a problem if this is a guy 2 months into it, Kevin, although I do wonder what you're doing, over here. Golfing or? Go ahead. Friday, don't go calling people Friday. That's the worst day to call on people. Wrong. Friday's the best day to be calling on people. They're happy. It's Miller time. They got their paycheck, you know. Great time to be calling on people. This is the week of what you see of a growing salesperson. And what you're going to see now, this is the week of what I call a real high-level sales performer. Monday morning's blocked out because this sales leader is going to be at the office to make sure the paperwork's done right. They're going to go out to the yard, they're going to find the driver, Tom. They're going to walk up to Tom and say, my brother, I got 2 compliments on you last week. Keep up the great work. I just wanted to, really? Yeah. You're the best driver out there. I'm telling you, people are loving you. They love what you do. Thank you. Keep it up. Because we as leaders, should we go out and recognize a driver for doing a good job? How often do you think they get those types of compliments from somebody in their shop? That's not a 3-pointer, that's a 0. They don't get those very often, right? You know, let's give them the 3-pointer. Let's give them 3 compliments every couple of weeks, right? And then you go back to the front desk and you make sure your inside people have the information they need. Instead of lighting fires under them, support them. Make sure you're giving adequate directions. Make sure you're giving complete instructions. Make sure you're sweating the details. Wednesday's blocked out because you got to get your kid to soccer practice. It's one of the privileges of being an outside salesperson. You can do things like that. And then you go to your inside. It's Friday. Then what you got to do? You got to be back at the office because you want to make sure that the details are sweated for next week. And what happens between the line? This sales cat's out there making appointments, seeing lots of people. I've had salespeople say, I don't believe it. You have to believe this. I believe it because I was privileged to see it. I've seen salespeople, the best salespeople I've ever worked with, their week is set up. People say, I don't know how that could happen. I don't have time on a Monday morning to make that many calls and set up that many appointments. This isn't representative of morning phone calls. This is representative of a career of evolution. This is representative of a salesperson that knows at the end of every meeting he's trying to schedule the next meeting. That's the other reason I wrote my second book, The Sales Secret. How do you build that? How do you build this calendar? That's the message. That's the thing we have to learn. This appointment wasn't made yesterday and all these made yesterday. This appointment on Tuesday was made last Tuesday. The Monday meeting was scheduled on Friday. The Thursday meeting in the afternoon was scheduled 2 weeks before because that's a meeting with the entire staff of a distributor or a builder or a contractor, somebody you're working with that you're going to give them some instruction on installation, features and benefits, sales ideas, whatever it might be, that you plan 2 weeks in advance. This is great sales leadership. And you got your warm calls for fill-in. And when does a great sales leader stop prospecting? The answer is never. Never. You know, let me tell you something. You should hear this. We don't have too many manufacturer reps in the room. Most of you are, in fact, I don't think we have any. We have 2 that I know of. Most of you get called on by manufacturer reps. Yes or no? Let me see if I can describe what happens. They show up unannounced. They don't have a purpose for being there. The second you see them pulling up, you're a little bit worried. I know this is I know this is true. I know this is true because I've been in the car with these guys. And I'm like, so what are we doing here today? What do you mean? What's the goal of the meeting? Why are we here? It's Tuesday. I always come here on Tuesdays. I'm like, oh, okay, I say. And I believe them. Because when I look through the window of the storefront, the storefront window of the branch, you know what I see? I see 2 people behind the counter going like this. you take them. And they're running. You got them. Leaving you behind, you know. He walks in. How you guys doing today? See the hockey game last night? Looks like the hockey played Minnesota, which is true, right? Here's the, yeah, you got something for us?